So today we carry on reading about the Levites, and the Levites were the particular tribe of Israel, the particular group of Israelites that were responsible for looking after everything to do with the tabernacle. So you might remember, as we've read this, one of the things that's become really clear is that God wanted to have a super awesome tent. That's what the tabernacle is. It's a big tent, and that's where he lived. God moved into the tabernacle. That was his address. That's where, if you wanted to visit God, you would go. And there were all these laws that surrounded the tabernacle that we've been reading about. And what would happen is God would dwell above the tabernacle, well, within the tabernacle, but also there'd be a massive cloud, a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night that would be kind of like a sign that, oh my word, there's God. And that would be quite cool if that was the case above churches today, wouldn't it? It'd be like, oh, where's God today going to church? Oh, there's a pillar of cloud hanging over this church. There's a pillar of fire hanging over that church. That must be where the Lord is. Let's go and hang out with him and see him. But that's how it was for Israel. So we've got to remember, when we picture them and imagine them living in the desert, they're living there in their own tent, but there in the distance or nearby, somewhere in the camp, would be God's tent. And God's tent had this massive God cloud thing hanging around above it. And lots of God's laws, as we've said, are all about people approaching the tent and be careful around the tent, because God's presence is like a nuclear reactor, like he's incredibly holy. And if you go nearby without the right sort of clothing on, the right sort of protection, then you better watch out. And here it's just instructions for how to move God's tent. So there's lots of instructions about how to, operate when the tent is up and everything's running. But occasionally God would move on. The pillar of cloud would move, and when the pillar of cloud moved, they moved. So they would pack up the tent. And these are all the instructions on how to pack up your tent. I don't know if you've ever been to Soul Survivor festivals, but instructions on how to pack up a tent are usually quite helpful. We often ignore them because we're so knackered. By the time it gets to the end of the week, we can't be bothered. So we just shove it in the bag. And then next time we get it out, we realise it's covered in mould. But hey, these guys had a really specific way to do it. What does this mean for us today? What's the point? Obviously, God doesn't live in a tabernacle, in an actual tent anymore. The point is this: you are the tent and I am the tent. We, the church, are the tabernacle or the temple of God. We are where he chooses to live now. And he doesn't just live in me, he doesn't just live in you, he lives in us together. Together we make up his house. And one of the things I love about this is different ones of the Levites had different jobs, different parts of the tent that they were responsible for. And in the same way, you and I, we have different responsibilities and different roles. So one thing it can be helpful to do is to pray and to ask God, God, as I exist as part of your community, as part of the home in which you live, what specifically are my roles? What specifically are the things you're asking me to do? Is it hospitality? Is it serving people? Is it preaching? Is it helping out with the worship? Is it offering to serve in terms of setting up chairs or packing things away? In what way are we serving our community and our tent? In what way are you serving in your church? I think really, if we follow the Lord, then being involved and committed to a local church and to community is essential. And it's always good to ask ourselves, Lord, what specific part of the tent are you asking me to serve in? And then go ahead and put legs on that and do it.